Hey guys, STLYoungblood with you, and today we're going to be talking about the Carrack concept sale, which went on sale starting yesterday. Now, the Carrack is going to be on sale right now through Monday, December 8th, and the total is going to be $350 with lifetime insurance, a poster, and a model for your hanger. Now, before we even start talking about the ship, let's go ahead and get the disclaimer out of the way, because we hear it a lot when I start doing videos, or the should you buy videos in regards to the more expensive ship. Yes, it is a $350 virtual spaceship, but what you're actually spending your money on is the development of the game. A reminder, you can get into this game as cheap as like 30 or 40 bucks, have the full game at release, and you're going to be set. So no one's twisting your arm. You can buy this ship in game and be totally fine. You can buy a cheaper exploration ship and be totally fine. But for those that want to spend more to back the game that people are passionate about, this is available. So now that we got through that, let's go ahead and start talking about what this ship is. And it's an exploration ship at heart. It's a military-grade exploration ship. It was a military exclusive, now available for civilian purchase. It's got reinforced fuel tanks for long-duration flight. It's got advanced jump drives. Now, what that means, it might be better, it might be more powerful. Maybe it's more fuel efficient, maybe it's less fuel efficient, but can jump farther. Who knows? We'll have to see what that actually ends up playing out as. It's got a dedicated computer core for charting jump points, which is great. And you'll even see on some of the designs for the ship, it's got like these, almost these towers that fold out, kind of like the missile arms on the Aquila. And I think we're going to be kind of seeing those used through various sensor scanning, but I think that's also going to be a primary aspect of charting jump points. And it's also got a mapping-oriented sensor suite on board. Now, when we start talking about the specifics of this ship, remember, it's still just a concept ship, so things can change quite a bit. But we're going to kind of compare this to the Aquila, because I think that's what we're seeing most people kind of in that mental debate on. Because there's not a huge price difference between those two ships, but they're supposed to be serving similar purposes. So the length of the Carrack is 123 meters, which is about twice as long as the Aquila. The width is 64 meters, which is almost 3 times as wide as the Aquila, and I think that mostly has to do with just the design. It's got wings on it, whereas the Constellation seems to take a little bit more from its nacelles. The height of the ship is 25.5 meters, about twice as tall as the Aquila, and it has 4 levels on board inside of the ship itself. The mass of the ship, 180,000 kilograms, which is over twice that of the Aquila, but you can see it's about twice as large as the ship in just about every height, width, and length measurement, so that tends to make sense. Max crew is a 5-man ship, one more than the Aquila, which sits at 4-man crew. Cargo, it carries 0 cargo, though I think we've heard that there's going to be certain modularity to the ship, so maybe you could rip out certain sensor suites and be able to carry some form or fashion of cargo. Now, as far as the engines are concerned, we've got 2 times TR6s. Now, if you compare that to what the Aquila has at 4 times TR5s, it's got bigger engines, but it's got half of them, and it's not a huge difference in engine size. So I would guess while this ship is going to be fairly fast in a straight line, I think it's going to pale in comparison. I think something like an Aquila is going to be significantly faster when it's bigger and has more, or when it's smaller and has more powerful engines. As far as thrusters go, it's got 16 of them, which is pretty high. It's more than we've seen on a lot of the ships, and they are TR2s. Now, if we compare that to something like the Aquila has 8 thrusters, but they're TR3s. So maneuverability is kind of a tricky thing to talk about because we don't really know about the thrust output on a lot of these maneuvering thrusters. And a lot of it's going to have to do with placement on the ships as well. However, I would fully expect to see those TR3s on a smaller ship like the Aquila perform pretty similarly to the Carrack, and it may end up being better. Again, we're just going to have to wait and see. Now, as far as the max shield, the Carrack carries a size 7, which is pretty massive. The Aquila has a size 6, which is pretty good as well. We need to see kind of what this is actually going to mean. You know, if you've got a bigger shield, but it needs to be stretched over more of a ship, does that mean the shield layer then becomes a little bit thinner? I'm not really sure. But one thing that we can probably comment on is the armor. Now, we don't have any data about the armor, but this is a prior military exclusive, and we've seen other ships like the Hornets and kind of hear about like their legendary durability. So I would guess that a former military anvil ship is going to probably have some pretty heavy armor on board. Now, as far as the weapons, we don't have a lot of details on these yet, but it looks to have 2 man turrets, one on top and bottom, and some forward-facing guns that are, kind of gimbaled on those turrets on the side on the wings. Now, there's not a lot of details on him yet, what weapons it's actually carrying. However, it appears to be size 4 weapons on both, so it's got some decent, kind of offensive capabilities to it, but more likely on a ship like this, you're not going on the offense. It's going to be more likely defensive capabilities. Now, like we've seen with the Constellation series, the Carrack is going to come with a rover, which is great, and I think it's going to be like the one that we've seen from the Aquila commercial before. Little 6-wheel Lynx rover, but it hasn't actually been confirmed that that's the same rover we're going to be getting. The other thing it comes with is a scout ship, so I assume it's going to be probably a sensor-oriented type ship that can deploy and fly around to kind of help find smaller things, which is going to be a nice attribute in a ship designed for exploration. Now, when we start looking at the Carrack and kind of some theory crafting, there's a couple nice things that stand out about it, and I kind of envision it almost as like a multi-purpose ship, and it almost kind of fits into like a capital ship type role. It's similar in size to some of the other cap ships that we've seen. It's got a repair bay on board. It's got a medical bay on board. It's going to obviously fit into the Explorer category. And I think something like this could make a pretty good CNC ship as well. So I think there's a lot of different things outside of that realm of exploration that this ship is going to really excel in. Now, I wouldn't expect this to be a full-blown repair bay. I don't think you're going to be able to dock a Hornet on here and have repairs done to it. Though it's got, some tables and bays in it where maybe you can bring on board, whether that's pieces, maybe a certain weapon that you just need fixed while you're out on your convoy or whatever. I think there's going to be some functionality there. Now, as far as the Medbay, again, I don't think this is going to be something like, it's not going to be as fully capable as something like the hospital ship, though it may be able to do a little bit more than something like the Cutlass Red. So maybe you've got a Cutlass Red that runs out, picks up somebody that ejected, they're repairing that person or healing that person a little bit while in transport back to the Carrack, where maybe a little bit more can be done. We'll need to kind of see, but we've heard that the Cutlass Red's more of an ambulance, so this might be kind of a step between the ambulance and the full-blown hospital. Now, when we kind of compare this to some of the other exploration ships out there, I think there's some interesting things. For example, I think we start looking at like the Freelancer Dur variant, and we know that it's going to have the ability to go through smaller jump points. So there's still some functionality as far as like the smaller exploration ships where there's still a lot of value. Dur is also going to be, and the Aquila falls into this category, still a fairly multi-purpose vessel who excels in exploration. So, they can still carry cargo while taking on an exploration. Now, if you want to do the same thing in a Carrack, chances are you're going to have to, sacrifice some of your exploration abilities in order to make that happen. This is pure exploration, though I think it can kind of cross into some other areas. Some of the smaller exploration ships have some smaller or some other benefits in relation to their size. And I'm talking about like the Freelancer Dur or the 315P, for example. I think they're going to kind of have the ability to navigate asteroid-infested areas a little bit better. That may be kind of scary for a Carrack just based on size and maybe potential lower maneuverability. In all reality, though, I kind of envision having everything from a 315 to a Dur to an Aquila and a Carrack in an exploration fleet working together. I think once you start getting all of them together, you start getting the benefits. Things like the 315 and the Dur kind of scouting and doing exploring out on the fringes. Maybe they can go into some more, heavily cluttered areas and do a little bit more work. Something like the Aquila takes care of some of the planet-side duties. Now, the Carrack can still land. It obviously has the rover, so I think there's still a lot that the Carrack can do, but I think that the Carrack in this situation kind of acts as an operating base, doing jump scanning and using some of its more powerful sensor suites. Maybe it doesn't have to land, where it then becomes a little bit more limited. So I think for a ship like this, it obviously is going to be fine on its own, but to take full advantage of an exploration trip, I think having a little bit of a variety in your fleet is probably going to be good for you. The other thing to take into consideration when you start talking about larger ships is going to be operating costs. And when we start talking about these, the different ships that kind of fall into the exploration category, 315 is going to be really cheap to operate. It's a one-man ship. It's small. There's not a lot that you need to worry about stocking up. You can just go out and do your thing. Freelancer Dur kind of falls into that same category. You've got one other crew member that you need to pay off, but especially if it's just one of your NPCs, maybe that's nothing you need to really worry about. You start jumping up to something like the Aquila, you've got 3 other people that you need to pay, or the Carrack, you got 4 other people that you need to pay. The bigger ships are also probably going to be more expensive to repair, more expensive to insure. There's more people that you need to pay. Fuel is going to be something you need to buy, and jump fuel is something that's going to be completely separate. It's going to be more refined, almost like a racing fuel. And something like that could end up meaning that the more advanced jump drives may be more expensive to actually take advantage of and use. Smaller crews in general just mean less mouths to feed. But on the flip side of that, smaller crews also probably mean less efficient means of scanning and exploring. You compare something like a freelancer Dur. You've got a pilot who could be using the computer to scan stuff, and one other person at a different table that's doing some form of scanning. You get a 5-man crew on a Carrack, all of a sudden you can multitask a little bit better, and there's a lot of exploration taking place in the same time frame. So, can you hire NPCs to run your stations on your Carrack and run solo? Absolutely. But are they going to be on the same level as a human doing the same job? Probably not, unless you just get somebody who has no idea how the equipment actually works. All right, so let's go ahead and jump into kind of that nitty-gritty, the should you buy on this ship. And I think we're going to kind of do this like we have with some of the other bigger vessels that have come out, and talk about it from an organizational standpoint. If you're in a fairly large organization, or even one that's just kind of focused on exploration, I think the Carrack hands down is a must-buy ship. Now, whether that's buy in-game or buy with cash, or maybe people are pooling their funds together to buy one for a fleet or an organization as a whole, the Carrack is a ship that you should have. The Carrack is big. It acts like a borderline capital ship. You get some of the repair bay and medbay facilities that are nice, not to mention exploration-focused groups are going to have the ability to kind of go out and find new areas of space and really take advantage of those seats that are available on there. So if you are interested in the science aspect, the exploration aspect, I think there's a lot that this ship is going to have to offer. If you're just by yourself and you want this ship, then it all comes down to how you feel about spending the money. Could you save about $100 and get an Aquila? Absolutely, and you're going to have a great time, and it is a well-suited ship that's going to give you probably a little bit more versatility than something like a Carrack, and may be a better option for you. But if you are just focused on exploration and that's what you want to do and you have the funds available, go for it, because I think the NPCs, especially in a scientific type role, are probably going to perform a little bit better than maybe some of the more of the combat operations. That's just purely speculative. I don't really know. You've probably heard from some of my other videos that I don't really trust the NPCs until I've actually seen them in action, but I think, with us hearing that there's going to be different levels of NPC, not to mention you could just find other players and kind of create friends by having people just get on board, it's a good ship, and you get a lot of bang for your buck. You get the rover, you get the little scout ship, you can do a lot of things with a Carrack. So in my mind, the $350 price tag is about right, and I think you get a lot for it for what it actually is. Frankly, and this kind of falls into that category of other ships that I had mentioned, like the Retaliator. I was expecting a slightly higher price tag, so I'm surprisingly happy about how this actually turned out. Now, if you're sitting there on the fence and you're saying, God, the price is really more than I wanted to spend, then don't do it. Don't ever put yourself in a situation where you could potentially regret spending too much on the game. Anything that you put towards the game is helping the development, whether that be a $315 for $70 or whatever it is, or whether that be a freelancer Dur in like the $160 price range, or whether that be an Aquila around $275. Those price tags are probably a little bit off. I haven't looked at them in a little while, but it doesn't matter. There's a lot that you can do with exploration, and you get more for what you pay. It's just how it is, but you can earn everything in game, so it doesn't really matter. I think, again, though, bottom line for this ship is, if you're going to have people that can run your stations, or you are 100% focused on the exploration aspect of this game, then the Carrack offers a lot and is worth the price tag. Otherwise, save a little bit of money, look for earning it towards game. That's going to give you something that's going to give you something to work towards and help keep the game alive for you. But if you've got the money and these play styles or organizational stats kind of fit what you want to do, go for it. So if you have questions about this, please let me know. I'll see what I can do as far as digging up more information or answering them as they come up. Otherwise, stay tuned for a whole lot more, and I will talk to you guys later. Take care.